Oh, when the calendar flips to January, many of us make a point to get our lives in order. We make resolutions, vow to do better in the new year. But what about getting your affairs in order? I'm talking about making an estate plan, and now is the perfect time to do it. So I would like to welcome attorney at law and certified financial planner, Gregory Dupont, to the show. So nice to meet you, Gregory.
Nice to meet you as well.
All right, since this is your first time on the show, let's talk a little about your background and kind of what you can offer for folks.
Thank you. Well, I'm an attorney, obviously. I've been practicing law since 1992. Columbus born and bred, product of Upper Arlington. And I have been estate planning as my primary focus for the last 20 years.
Okay, so this is what you know, it's what you do. So let's get into some of the things that are involved, because I feel like estate planning does have a few different aspects to it. The first, a will. Most importantly, maybe, why do we need a will?
For certainty. You know, a will directs what's going to happen if you pass away. If a person's in charge, it says what you want to have done with your stuff. Absent a will, it's left to chance. There are certain statutes that say where things go, and just about anybody that has an interest could be the person that's put in charge of your estate. So putting a will in place gives you certainty as to what's going to happen with your affairs, your assets, who's going to take care of it, and for most people, the most important thing, who's going to be the guardian of their children.
Yeah, and that is hugely important, especially if it's missing, because everything gets tied up in the courts, right, if you don't have a will.
It can be a very messy process.
Yeah.
If you don't have the things planned out correctly, and who can be put in charge can ultimately be someone that you don't want to have in charge.
So what kind of costs are involved in resolving an estate, getting these things accomplished?
So there are two kinds of costs that you have to be familiar with. One is the actual hard cost of the administration of the estate, and that is throughout Central Ohio, something that is determined by a sliding scale of percentages. In Franklin County in particular, though, we do have a rule against that. In other counties, we have a percentage-based payment, call it 4%, 3%, 2%, 1%. It's kind of a sliding scale.
Okay.
In Franklin County, we do have a rule. We are the only county that I'm familiar with in Ohio that does have this rule, that things should be based upon an hourly rate. So you have those type of costs, and then you have taxes that are involved potentially.
Okay. So something to think about as you plan. Another question, and when you talk about a will and inheritance involved in that, right? So are there taxes on that money?
It's a more complicated question than you might understand at this point. At a starting point, an estate has no taxes unless it is very large in terms of an estate tax.
Gotcha.
But most people in the modern era, their biggest asset in their estate is their 401k.
Okay.
And when you have that 401k out there, that has a huge income tax component that the beneficiaries may have to pay. And so for most people, when they hear there is no estate tax, they're a little bit misled because there is that huge income tax that can be out there.
Okay, so something else you need to consider, and I think one of the biggest questions people ask, even in this day and age especially, is, you know, why should I have somebody specifically do this for me and not just go online and you know, pay $20 and fill out a will, so to speak, online? What would you say to those folks?
Those wills online, doing it yourself, the documents themselves are perfectly legal and enforceable. They have specific procedures set up to make those so that you can do it the right way. What I have seen, though, is that, number one, this is not something that people really want to do. They don't want to go in to see a lawyer, so they want to try to get it done, and they'll do this online. Well, more often than not, they may download that form and do it, but never sign it. And so it's perfectly invalid. There is nothing there. And so, you know, you asked me, why do we need a will? I said, certainty. And if that's why you're doing that, and you're doing it online by yourself, you don't have that certainty. So for a nominal cost for most attorneys, you can get it done, you can get that certainty, which is the reason that you're doing a will.
Okay, it makes sense, Gregory. You are offering today a free consumer's guide to estate planning, a simple text to the phone number we're going to put on screen. What can somebody get out of that?
So that's a 8-page document that has some of the common questions that I've heard over the years. You know, what's a guardian? You know, what is an estate? Those type of things. So that's what is involved in that document.
Okay, it is all to ensure certainty, and we thank you for being here and sharing with us.
Thank you for your time.